Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch. If you're new here, my name is Jody and this channel is dedicated to watches exactly like this one. Affordable gems that look and feel much more expensive than they actually are. If that sounds good to you, then please hit the big button with the word subscribe on it. Now, Rolex transformed the relatively humble Oyster Perpetual a couple of years ago by releasing it in a bunch of new vibrant colorways, and in doing so they took a watch that was already hard to get and made it impossible to get, particularly when the watch has been adopted by the rich and famous keen to get some color on their wrist. What if I told you I had just picked up an awesome looking, bright, colorful, everyday watch from a big Japanese brand and I got it delivered to my door for a few cents over $150 US? You'd be interested, right? I don't blame you. Let's flip the camera and have a look at it. Alright, let's get into it. You've got the hands and the world map today, but don't worry. I will show you some more of this watch through my macro lens later on, and I think it looks fantastic. The Rolex LP is popular because of the colour, and this has a very similar kind of orangey yellow colour. Definitely this is one of the best looking watches that I've seen for the money that I paid. Talking of which, just so as you know, I'm not lying, this is the price I paid, 229 AUD, just over 150 USD from a local supplier. Now they've now sold out unsurprisingly, so I won't leave a link to their store. I will leave a link to this watch on eBay. The prices are a little higher there, but still available for under 200 if you're not that fussy about which colour you actually end up with, and you're not short of options, are you? So do your own digging, do your own research, perhaps you will unearth a bargain like I did. Now because I got it from an authorised dealer here in Australia of Citizen watches, it came with a full 5-year warranty. Awesome price, awesome warranty, and I think you'll agree that is an awesome colour. It is so nice, a really vibrant orangey yellow. Not that popular a couple of years ago, but this colour is really having its moment in the sunshine, if you pardon the obvious pun. Citizen model references are always awful, and this one is no exception. NH8391-51Z. This contains the caliber 8200. First time I have encountered this specific movement, it's not at all bad. More on it later. Now I had to remove 3 links. I could have removed another half link, I guess. That means this one is suitable for an 8-inch plus wrist, no problem at all. And it's definitely a bit of a looker, isn't it? I wouldn't describe this as a one-for-one retro reissue, but it is inspired by a model from Citizen's past, that being the Crystal 7 from 1965. You can see the similarities with the day-date complication there. The day of the week under the brand name at 12 o'clock and the date of the week in the traditional position at the 3 o'clock. You can also see, though, it's not a one-for-one, the indices and handset both quite different. So the dial colour certainly resembles the Rolex, and the overall set of dimensions are quite similar as well. This one's a little bit smaller, 40.2mm in diameter, but 13.1mm thick. That is quite chunky. Now 47mm lug to lug, that is on the compact side of things. However, those are male end links, so it does wear a little larger than that. I would just like to say thank you to Citizen for 20mm between the lugs rather than 21, which they have an odd and irritating tendency to do rather a lot. There is a decent taper on the bracelet down to 17.8 at the clasp. Sized up for me, like I said, I took out 3 links. I could maybe have taken out a further half link. It weighs in at 130 grams. 50 meters of water resistance from a push-pull crown. Now, the Crystal 7, upon which this watch is loosely based, was the first Japanese watch by Citizen to feature a mineral crystal. Oddly enough, this one features a double dome mineral crystal as well. I think there's a fair amount of anti-reflective undercoating, though. You can see my studio lights, you can still see the dial. It does pretty well for itself. And the movement, as discussed, a Miyota 8200. Let's get the macro lens out again to have a look at that movement. Now, display case back, which is always nice on an affordable watch, even if the movement itself is nothing to write home about, to be honest. Very, very plain. Miyota 8000 series, 21 joules. This is a new version of it. It hacks and it hand winds, but the rotor only spins in one direction, so that can be felt and occasionally heard on wrist, but it's not too bad, certainly better than the old 8215s, which were even rougher. It has a roughly 40-hour power reserve, and this one is coming in just around plus 10 seconds per day. To be honest, that is pretty much standard for this Miyota 8000 series slash Seiko NH series level of movement. Case finish is very nice though, certainly doesn't look like an affordable watch from this angle, does it? Very fine horizontal brush on the mid case, there's high polished chamfers to the upper and lower surfaces, high polished bezel, and a really nice piece of integrated mineral crystal. The bracelet, and specifically the clasp though, does rather give this one away as an affordable. 3-link oyster style. Now, solid end links, and I believe solid links. I've looked for seams, I cannot find them. Just push pins holding them all together, and I did appreciate the inclusion of 2 half links because that will give you a decent chance at sizing this one properly, because the clasp will not. The clasp is probably the weakest point in the entire package here. It's pressed, it's fairly nasty, it has the Citizen name stamped into it, double pushers, but no adjustment whatsoever, so you are relying on those half links. But let's not worry about the clasp for now. Let's get back outside and have a look at the dial and hands under macro, because this does not look like an affordable watch from this angle, does it? Gorgeous colour, sunburst effect, there's a slight granular texture to the dial surface when you get up close and personal. It's kind of a sector dial as well, it's got that black crosshair printing running through the middle of it. Those indices and the date frame around the date complication at 3 are all applied. They're all beveled and high polished. Now the larger arrowheads at the 12, the 6 and the 9 are beveled down the middle. Not to a central point, but to a central trough, meaning there are 4 different surfaces there, all designed to catch and play with the light. And have a look at the brush finish of the frame of the day of the week complication underneath the brand name. It looks great. Like I said, for the price I paid, this thing is awesome. And the handset is really nice too. High polished bevel tapered swords with loom down the middle. Don't worry, I'll show you the loom in just a minute or two. It's a very slender needle second hand, unloomed though. That's okay, it's a sporty style of watch, it doesn't necessarily have to have a loom second hand. But you can see more loom, those little dots on the hour markers around the outer edge. Overall, this thing looks really nice. And a decent piece of glass allows you to see all of those details with clarity. On wrist it looks good and it wears quite well, I would say. I've got a 7-inch wrist for your reference, which is pretty much average size. I think this watch wears a little larger than the on-paper dimensions suggest, thanks to its thickness, its relative thickness at 13mm, and thanks to those male end links, they stick out well beyond the 47 lug to lug. If I was going to run this one long term, I would probably look to swap this bracelet out, get it on some vintage brown leather. Oh, that would look absolutely awesome. As it is, the bracelet is serviceable, but yeah, the head of the watch is definitely better than the bracelet. Let's put it that way. Legibility is reasonable. Again, this is not a diver, so there are a few compromises made in that regard, but silver on that orangey yellow dial is actually quite reasonable to view from most angles. Moans and niggles. Well, mineral crystal and 50 meters of water resistance are okay for the price I paid, but of course I would have preferred sapphire crystal and 100 meters of water resistance. And I haven't shown you the loom yet. I mentioned there was some loom on the hour and the minute hand and little dots around the outer edges. It looks okay initially, you can certainly see what the time is, but if I turn the speed up on this by the end of my 20-minute test period, which I always think is about 4 to 5 hours of human eye equivalent, you can't really see much, can you? But other than that, it really is just the clasp. Bit limiting with the lack of any kind of micro adjust, and yeah, definitely the cheapest component of the whole watch. But if you fancy an everyday watch with some colour on your wrist and you don't quite have the weekly income of Lionel Messi, perhaps you too can find one of these for a bargain price like I did. So there you have it, proving once again you don't have to spend a fortune if you don't want to get a great watch on your wrist. And it's great to see Citizen, the most conservative of the Japanese big brands, pushing the colour envelope and bringing some of the colours that are super hot at the moment to the affordable end of the market. If you want to see some more affordable nuggets just like this one, click here or click here. Thanks for watching, I'll see you again in a future video.